guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'll be doing my 2024 reading wrap up for all the books that I read this year. I didn't have like a major plan to read a lot. My only goal was to continuously read a series. And I did that. I even completed one. I'm so proud of myself. Yes. But let's get started. So some of them I physically read and were purchased, and the other physical books were from the library. I read audiobooks on Libby and Audible, and I read books on Kindle. So the top of this year, I was really super excited for the newest season of Bridgerton, which was going to be about Colin and Penelope. I stopped to go get my box set because I have the box set. This is not pretty on either side, but this one. But I read An Offer from a Gentleman, and I read Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, and I read the Viscount Who Loves Me, and I also read To Sir Philip with Love. And I got this from a thrift store, so I was very happy with that purchase. Was To Sir Philip with Love, which was out of order. Yeah, I love this book. Out of all three of these, I liked this book because it's Eloise. Even in the series, she's unpredictable and she does her own thing, and that's the perfect way to explain her love story. I felt bad for Sir Philip in the book because of what he had to endure just to make sure that his brother's love interest was happy because of, how their stories ended. Well, his wife and his brother's story ended. But that was my favorite Bridgerton novel that I read this year. Then I read Colin and Penelope's book, and I loved it. And let me backtrack. So when I watched the season, I was very irritated. I was very irritated because one, Benedict's story came before Colin and Penelope's, because the way Penelope covered Benedict's love interest in their book, Lady Whistledown covered it. I was very frustrated with that season of Bridgerton because it felt like, let me tell everybody else's story but Colin and Penelope's. I'm like, there were so many things to talk on that were made very minuscule things in the season. One, the way Penelope supported Colin's writing career and him wanting to differentiate himself from his brothers, and why. Also, Penelope wanting to be her own person and being Lady Whistledown. And also, Eloise ain't had no problem with it was just a mess. Either way. And the one thing I was looking forward to this season in Bridgerton was Eloise sneaking off and for there to be ink on her gloves and everything. That whole Cressida and Eloise friendship was so left field, but I liked the theory that Cressida was going to end up being Sophie. That didn't happen, but I still support the new actress that's going to be Sophie, since they've already debuted her on social media and everything. I support. I just hope that Cressida has a redemption arc. And I learned this year, based on an author's words at her signing, that some characters are just bad. They don't deserve redemption arcs. And I'm like, some characters do deserve redemption arcs. And I'm like, I feel like with the last season of Bridgerton, you really got to see what Cressida endured and why she was such a horrible person. Having an a-hole stepdad like that, I'd be a horrible person too. But back to stories. I read The Duke and I believe that was Benedict's story. And obviously it's just a Cinderella retelling, so I enjoyed it. Also, I like show Benedict better than I do book Benedict, because book Benedict is a rake, a big rake, bigger than Anthony type rake. And I read The Viscount Who Loved Me, and I love that book as well. And I like that you got to see the different reasons why Anthony wanted to stay in his rakish ways, and his trauma with experiencing his father pass away and things of that nature. So yeah, I read those 3 books, and that's what started my 2024. After that was really spring for me. That was my spring reading. Winter-ish, I didn't read a lot because I was in the middle of a job transition. So let's get into summer. And y'all, let me just tell y'all, my summer was unexpected to me. TikTok is what made me have a cowboy romance summer. And I did not start it with what you would think I'd start it with, even though I did read those books. Let me tell you the book that I read that started my cowboy reading summer. So my first cowboy romance that I read of the summer was by Maggie Gates, and it was called Downpour. It was the second book in the series, and it's the only one that I have read in the series because I saw so many TikToks of people promoting it, talking about, ooh, Grumpy Sunshine, retired bull rider who has to be like taken care of by his bedside nurse, and he's super attractive, and this is that and third. I'm like, y'all are playing. Yeah, anyways, but I kept scrolling, and even when I scrolled away from the video, I kept thinking about it. So I did what anybody would do. I downloaded the book on my Kindle, and I read it, and y'all, it was so cute. But also, oh no, I'm telling a story. The first book I read that was cowboy was unintentional to me. I didn't even know it was part of a series. I picked up Hopeless by L.C. Silver at Barnes & Noble. And y'all, this day was monumental for me because I had went to the Barnes & Noble that was closest to me in my vicinity, and y'all, they closed it down. I had to drive all the way to like 2 towns over to go to Barnes & Noble to get this. Yes, did I pass countless libraries? I did. But I didn't pass many stores because Half Price Books isn't near me. Second Chance Books or whatever isn't near me. It's all the way in Kennesaw. I had to drive to Noonan. To go to Barnes & Noble, and I picked up this book. I thought it was so cute. But y'all, if I was paying attention the way I would have paid attention, I probably wouldn't have picked up this book, I'm being completely honest. The age gap threw me off with the whole he's 35, she's 22, and a virgin, marriage of convenience trope. I was like, ew. I read the first 2 chapters, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. So I put it down, and I started reading Downpour by Maggie Gates, and halfway through the book, you found out there's a large age gap in the characters. I was like, well, if I'm going to finish this book, I might as well go back and finish the other book that I didn't read because of the age gap. But back to the Maggie Gates and Downpour, I thought it was so cute. I thought how his grumpiness was his grumpiness is understandable based on what his character endured. But seeing him slowly come out of his shell to protect and care for the quirky bedside nurse who had a lot going on in her life, and the way that he sheltered and protected her and his family, the Griffith brothers, the other, is it Griffith or Griffin? The Griffith brothers, but the way they all came to protect her and like giving her, love and support, which she didn't have because she was basically like a loner because of her upbringing and all that, and he comes from this big supportive family. But also another reason why I didn't like this book, you always have a pros and cons. The pros was that, but the cons was I feel like you didn't really get to learn a lot about the female character, because I believe, let's see, who are my characters in this book? Our characters are Ray and Brooke. With Brooke, you get to learn a little bit about her, but not as much as Ray. I would have liked to know just as much about Brooke's backstory as we did about Ray and his whole entire family and things of that nature. But I also like to see how he was a family man before the accident, and he kind of went into his shell after the accident because he felt like he couldn't love and support and care for his family with him being down and out due to his injury. Even though he really wasn't down and out, they still loved and cared for him. He just didn't see it that way. But yeah, that was like the beginning of my cowboy romance, which brought me back to Hopeless by Miss L.C. Silver. Did I like this at the beginning? No, I didn't. But I picked it back up, and I'm happy I did. So this book to me gave wrong side of the tracks meets right side of the tracks. And wrong side of the tracks tries to prove to the right side of the tracks why everybody in the town hates her. And right side of the tracks was like, that's BS. And she was like, it's not BS. And he was like, all right, I'm prove it. We're going to say that we're engaged. And watch, even with the last name Eaton behind you, I think it's Eaton. Are they Eatons? I think they're Eatons. Yeah, they're Eatons. Because I read Eatons and I read the other series I'm going to tell you about in a minute. But yeah, even if you have Eaton attached to you, they're going to treat you the same. And let's just say she was right. And also, They had a good little love story going, regardless of the age gap. It's just one. Everybody was supporting both of them, even though somebody was like, "How did y'all get together that quickly?" And the spice was different. The spice was different. I'll say that. Even the spice in the first book was different. Ropes. You had ropes in this book. You had other stuff in this book. You had them at the lake, skinny dipping and stuff. It was cute. It was cute. But I put this down like twice. But I did finish it. And after I finished it, I realized I read about other characters that I'd rather read their stories. So I started this series from the beginning. I wouldn't necessarily give this a rating, because I'm still learning my rating system. I don't want to be too harsh because I don't have one. But out of this whole series, this is my least favorite. I will say that. And after that was, of course, Flawless. And it was about Summer and Rhett. So with Summer and Rhett, I thought it was cute. I'm going to tell you what my favorite character is, but it's not. Couple is, but it's not them. But Rhett and Summer, it was cute because it gave fangirl meets fangirl obsession that they fangirl over. And fangirl has to act like she's not a fangirl, even though she is. But I thought Summer's story was sad, but I liked the ending. I'll just say this. All of the Eaton brothers are very protective about the women that they love and will do anything for them. And Rhett really led with that protectiveness after getting over the whole irritation of her basically being the PR person and the nannying him for a summer after trying to fix his PR fiasco. And my whole thing is I kind of agree with Rhett with that whole, why am I a-hole because I don't like milk? How are you gonna get mad at somebody's dietary not necessarily restrictions but preferences? You don't get mad because you don't like milk? Cowboys cannot like milk. Cowboys ain't gotta like milk. They don't. Shoot. Even though cowboys have the name cow in it and milk comes from cows, and you're a cowboy that doesn't like what getting distracted. But I also like how you got the backstory of Summer and her dad, and how the dad was introduced before Summer. So it's like, I don't like the manager, but I love the manager's daughter. But Miss Silver, she was good at like introducing characters before you realize the importance of the character to the other main characters, if that makes sense. I like how we were introduced to Rhett's family. Well, no, we were introduced to Rhett's like cowboy circuit people first, like his enemy and his protege. And we learned about his protege's backstory with losing his father. And but we learned about a lot of stuff. But out of like the hierarchy, they're not my favorite couple. I like their story where they're not my favorite couple. And so now on to the next. But yes, Summer and Rhett story, it was cute, but it wasn't my story because it's not my favorite trope. After that, we got Heartless with Willa and Cade Eaton. And y'all, Willa like busted out the woodworks as like a firecracker. Do I hate that terminology, firecracker? Yes, I do, but that's the only way to like describe Willa. The whole losing her unmentionables in a public place and having basically the future love of your life pick him up. I would never have guessed how that story was going to go. But my favorite character in that book is the son, Cade's son. Yeah, Cade's son. I like him because I feel like he was like the mastermind between both of them, and the trope was a single dad and nanny, but it gave what it needed to give. But there were certain parts that I did cringe about, like them adult wrestling during the son's birthday party, or but that was really the only cringe moment I had, even though it's supposed to be spicy and fun. I was just like, ew, that's a little tacky for me, but because there's other places y'all can do that at. But yes, cute story, not my favorite. And I also like that Willa, she didn't need the job. She's here to help Summer. She did not need this job. Literally, she comes from money. Her brother owns a bar that she helps like run. She helps run a family business. She don't need to be up at the ranch at Chestnut Springs, helping with anything. She don't need to do nothing, but she loves her best friend Summer that much that she gonna come help them get her brother-in-law and their son, well, her new nephew through marriage in line. But in the end, she ends up finding her significant other at the same time. So yeah, liked it, didn't love it. Then I read Powerless by Elsie Silver again. And it was Jasper and Sloane's story. And Jasper and Sloane's story, I usually am not a fan of childhood friends to lovers, but I very much enjoyed this book. And I enjoyed the little nuances that came with the book. And I love the flashbacks, because one of my major questions while reading the other books was, how did Jasper come to be like such a close not even a family friend, such a part of the Eaton family? Like, who brought him to Chestnut Springs? Not even Chestnut Springs. Who brought them to the ranch to be one of the Eatons, part of the Eaton clan? Ooh, clan, not right. Part of the Eaton family. But seeing the way Bo introduced him, and seeing the backstory with what he had to endure, but also in the backstory about his dad and his little sister and his mother and all these other little things. I hate Jasper's actual birth family. I really do. I hate his blood family. He is a true Eaton through and through. I love that Sloane had her own thing going. Like, she had her own career, she's chasing her dreams, and she has a supporting family, even if her dad was supporting for the wrong reasons. I loved that baby. That special day came for her with that wedding, and Josh was like, if you're ready to go, let's go. And she's like, I think I want to go. And he was like, bet. And the whole Eaton crew figured out that whole situation, how to get them out of there, but also Sloane coming back into herself while going on this journey to help Jasper, and Jasper to help Papa Eaton with getting the stuff down to the Sister Eaton. I'm saying Sister Eaton, Papa Eaton, because I'm forgetting their names. It's been a minute since I read the book. But I do remember what I'm supposed to remember, if that makes sense. I like how Jasper is such a quiet, mysterious character, but behind closed doors, baby, he ain't quiet. This is his domain. You listen to what Jasper says do, and if you think you getting over by doing little sneaky snide things outside of behind closed doors, he's going to punish you for it. And that is what he did. So really, Jasper and Sloane, that's my second favorite character, like trope and everything. Now to get to the character that is my favorite character ever, because it's my favorite trope. Is my trope a little, yes it is, but I still enjoy the book. And my favorite book out of the Chestnut Springs series is, drumroll please, Reckless with Theo and Winter. Now, did I think it was going to be my favorite book? I knew 100% it's going to be my favorite book. Why would you say that? Because Winter, with her being such a mean character in the book, but she's mean because of the things she endured, I knew she's going to have a redemption arc. And I don't even think she necessarily needed a redemption arc. It's just, she deserved better. And from everything that happened to her, I knew she was going to get it. She's going to get it. I love when it's not even about the second chance romance. It's about the second chance for the character to, have something good in their life for once. And not saying that Winter wasn't something good that happened to Summer. I mean, that Summer wasn't something good that happened to Winter. It's just the way that Summer came about. I would kind of come with some reservations into that family relationship as well. But also all the things that happen behind closed doors with Summer and Winter's original love interest. But also the way that Winter walked away with her head held high not necessarily walked away with her head held high. She walked away and was in the midst of getting herself together before she went to mend her relationship with Summer. And again, this is the second time Summer has introduced a love interest to their future mister. But I love that book. I hated how Theo found out about the first piece of his legacy. That makes sense. I'm trying not to spoil, but at the same time, if you haven't read this book, that's your fault. That's your fault. But I hate the way that he found out about his daughter. And now talking about this book, I want to reread it because it was so good to me. It was my favorite book out of the entire series. But I like how he dropped everything. Not necessarily dropped everything. I liked how things came about. A lot of people didn't know. I'm how did you not know that was the father? And all this other stuff. I like how Sloane and Winter bonded and created a second friendship, a stronger friendship outside of the significant other groups. Because you had who was first? You had Summer, you had Willa, you have Sloane, and now you have Winter. But Winter feels like the odd one out, but Sloane didn't make her feel like the odd one out because it was Sloane and Winter was locked in the whole book from the introduction to the end. They were together forever, best friends, yeah. And then you had is it Bailey? I think it's Bailey. Bailey. Is it Bailey, y'all? I gotta pick up this book because I'm trying to remember names. At least I'm trying. You had Bailey, which is the last one in. But out of the entire Chestnut Spring series, Winter and Theo were my favorite because I love me a good pregnancy trope. I ain't even gonna correct it. I love me a good pregnancy trope. But that was my second cowboy romance series I read. Now to get into the third one. So y'all, the third series I read was the Rebel Ridge or Blue Ridge series by Miss Lila Sage. And y'all, look at this. Signed. It is signed by girl Lila Sage. And I got her newest book signed. Oh, by Mrs. Sage. Yeah, by Mrs. Sage. And let me just tell y'all, the book came out 2 days before I went to the signing in Canton, Georgia. And let me just tell you, done and dusted. I don't know what encouraged me to pick it up when I was in Walmart, but I did. And when I read it, it was so good. I want to say that's not the first time me reading brother's best friend trope, but it was the first time it was as memorable as that one. And one thing that author does is each character has their own thing going on. And Done and Dusted, Emmy, she has, I think it's ADHD or something, to where she doesn't like certain textures of foods and stuff like that. And so in every book, Lila Sage, she highlights a certain character having a disorder or something of that nature, to where she's educating while entertaining. In the first book, it was ADHD. In the second book, it was depression. And in the third book, it was dyslexia. Am I spoiling a little bit? Yes, I'm not telling you which character has it. But she educates and she educates and she entertains, which is what made those books humanize the characters better, if that makes sense. But Emmy and Luke Brooks, but he has a nickname. I forgot what it is, but she started calling Luke. But my dog is scratching on the door. He's scratching on the door, but I'm not letting him in. I'm not at all. But Emmy and Luke, their story about how he basically helped her start over. He supported her being a cowgirl and helping her start over with her barrel racing after the incident she gets in. There's other things that happen, but in both the Chestnut Spring series and the Rebel Ridge series, Rebel Ridge, whatever you want to call it, I like how both the fathers, they're both single fathers, Two, they support their children to no end. I like that. But Luke and Gus, when they had their moment at the end of that book, it was a mess. The second book I read Swift and Saddle too, but I had that on my Kindle and I didn't buy the physical copy. But I read Swift and Saddled, which was Wes and Ada's book, I want to say. And Wes is the middle child. He is the middle. What is their last name? Chestnut Spring is Eaton's, and Rebel Ridge are the writers, like Emmy Ryder, Wes Ryder, and Gus Ryder. But in Wes's book, he is a middle child. Emmy's a barrel racer. Gus is next in line to own everything. So it's like, where does he lie? He wants to help the family business by pushing them forward in like hospitality and like hotel / bed and breakfast type thing. And he has to work really hard to get his family's approval. And Ada comes in because she's the interior designer and helping push the Rebel Ridge like bed and breakfast forward. And she has her own reservations about why she doesn't want to like go in the relationship route. Wes doesn't, because again, Wes doesn't have anybody at the moment, so it's not like he's head over heels ready to fall in love. It's just Ada is somebody that he can't get out of his head. Yeah, so they start working on bringing Baby Blue to fruition, and in the midst of them doing that, their love story intensifies with each character, and he learns like why she doesn't want to go into being in a romantic situation again. And he also helps her gain the keys to being like a fully independent woman. He shows her like, hey, I'm not trying to cage you like maybe your previous partner has. I want you to be free, and I want to love your free and wild self, if that makes sense. So I love their book. After that was Swift and Saddled, which was Gus and Theodore's book, which was Enemies to Lovers. When it comes to my favorite tropes, is enemies to lovers, pregnancy trope, and boss and assistant. Is that kind of bad? Yes, it probably is, but those are my tropes. But that was Enemies to Lovers, and it gave Enemies to Lovers, but not as intensely as I thought it would. I loved finding out that Gus wears glasses. I love seeing how supportive he was for the women in his life, whether it is the mother of his child, his daughter, or his little sister's best friend. It was just such an invigorating ride from the beginning to the end, and seeing how creative and optimistic Theodora is, and seeing how she was with Gus's daughter and creating a summer project for them to do that they both were super excited for. Like, it wasn't just let me entertain this child, it was let me entertain this child and me. But also seeing them come to the realization that they both were dealing with the same things. You had Theodora that has to take care of her father, and you have Gus thinking he has to take care of the ranch and his entire family and his daughter, and also maintain things while whatever is going on else is going on the ranch. So both had to realize, even though they were enemies, they had a lot of things in order in common that they could, help take the stress off of things, if that makes sense. Spice was spicing. I'll say that, spice was spicing. But yeah, that completed my Cowboy romance reads. And actually, I believe this was October when I went to that signing, like October 10th or 11th. So I recently just finished this and had the signing, which I'll include a photo of it. It was very exciting. That was my first book signing. And also, I want to backtrack because Bridgerton books wasn't my first book, like read of 2023. Let me show you what was. Ana Huang's The King of Sloth book was my first read of 2024. It was. And I actually started reading The King of Greed. I think that was the first book in this series, like last year, but I didn't finish it. Like, I was reading it and I put it down. Why? I did not know. It was a good book. It was an interesting book, but I had put it down. But King of Sloth, read from beginning to end, because the female character, not Xavier, where is she at? Not Xavier. Dang, I have two Sloans. So I had a Sloan in the winter. This was my winter read. This was my like January, February read. I had Sloan in this book, and I had a Sloan in the Chestnut Spring series. So I had two Sloans this year. Look at that. I didn't even know that until you revisit what you read. So I love this book. I love that he liked her from the beginning. I love how she supported him during his hard times, and him supporting her during her hard times with her toxic, horrible a-hole family. And I loved how her friends supported her and how she supported him with his entrepreneur endeavors. And I'm excited to see the next book in her other series. But I did see the character that she was promoting during this book that Sloan was the manager of. Oh, and I love Sloan's little sister. That was like the cutest thing, like the cutest relationship in this book. The cutest relationship in this book. Great book. I'm not saying it's like it wasn't like my favorite book. It wasn't the worst book. I didn't forget this book. It's just I had to put it in my hands and read the back to remember that I read it, because again, I went through two major job transitions when I was reading majority of these books. So yeah, I like this. I really did. So now we went back to, we had a Ana Huang Winter. We had a Julia. Is it Julia? We had a Julia Quinn Spring. And we had an Elsie Summer / Lila Sage. No, we had a, is it Elsie Summers? Oh, about to mess up. We had an Elsie Silver Summer, and we had a Lila Sage and Kennedy Ryan Fall. Did you see that? Did you see that coming? No, because I don't have any of the books in my hand. So, once I got Audible, books were getting recommended to me, and I don't know if Libby is connected to Audible, but I had read like the Davenports and a couple books like that on Libby, but they were like last year, not this year, and I didn't finish it because again, working. But yeah, I read Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, and that wasn't like my first like black romance that I attempted to read this year. I attempted to read Tia Williams' A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. I started it, but I didn't finish it. I didn't finish it because I was talking about it with a friend, and a friend accidentally spoiled the whole plot of the book. So I DNF'd this book, not because I didn't like it. I DNF'd this book because I was told the plot of the book, and I didn't get irritated. I was like, okay, now I don't want to read it. I was told the ending, like, ugh. So I was like, okay, I'm going to read this later, and I'm going to pick up a different black romance. So am I going to read this? Yes. Did it start off great? Yes, it did. It just, Band-Aid got pulled. Rug got pulled. Can't do that. Not right now. So I read Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I read that in an audiobook. And chapter 28 in the audiobook, baby. Did I listen to that book that chapter a second time? Yes, I did. Am I ashamed? No, I'm not. But it was so good because Kennedy Ryan touched on the realities of what it's like to go through postpartum depression. Have I ever been through postpartum depression? Have I ever had a child? No. But I hear a lot about it, and a lot of people that read that book, they agree, and they empathize with what the main female character went through during her postpartum depression. When I read the first chapter, I was driving home to Mississippi, and I was reading about Deja and her attitude. I was like, my mama would have tore a knot in my hiney. I was like, so I was side-eyed. I was telling my best friend / roommate who read this book before me. I was like, I'm not about to finish this. She's like, Mariana, you need to finish the book, because a lot of what she's feeling is because of what her parents went through, and they're connected. I was like, you supposed to stay in a child's place. This ain't none of her business why she feel like that, or why she has this hostility toward her mama, and this is that and the third. But baby, when I tell you that all came full circle, because let's just say during is it Yasmin? No, I don't even have the physical book, but during the main couple's rocky period, they was not as quiet as they thought. That whole book came full circle, and it was so good. Like it, you know how they say you have to make it through like the first 5 to 10 chapters, and then after that, if you make it through the five to 10 chapters, you will reap the benefits of your reading because the book will get better and better and better. And that's what Before I Let Go did, and it was so good that I raced to watch This Could Be, to listen to / read This Could Be Us. And seeing it's Yasmin and Soledad. Seeing Soledad overcome what her partner put her through, like making her feel insecure about her being a stay-at-home mom when he wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom, when she went to school and then took a break and helped him go to school. Like, she endured, she supported, she did everything that they think they make women feel like we should do as being a loving and supportive wife. She did all of that and turned around and it bit her on her hiney. And then doing all of that, and then her husband being his infidelity and his trickery and his sneakiness came back, not to just punish him, it punished her, and it punished their family, and she had to get it out the mud, and she did. That was like the best, seeing you use something that you were criticized for during your relationship, the way you cooked, the way you care for a home, she used those exact same things that he belittled and teased her for, and it turned her into a household name that skyrocketed and covered the family with. And during that time, she not only used those powers to like show her daughters like the right way to do things and things of that nature, and not to be, she wasn't hostile toward the dad as I would have been. She was mean to her. She was nice to her mother-in-law. I would have been mean. A lot of things she did. She was the better woman and the bigger person. I'm not big, baby. I would be microscopic if I was Soledad. But seeing her relationship with the male lead and how it came about, and it wasn't like dramatic or anything. It was like the transition between her ex-husband to her new man friend, and seeing everything that he had to endure with being a parent of 2 children that were on the spectrum, but also having a supportive and loving ex-wife, and his ex-wife's husband being family. I feel like Soledad, she went through something deep and dark only to come out on top and have a bigger community of people that supported her. You not only had your friends and your daughters, because you had your family, but the family was at a distance. All the daughters were like all over the U.S. But seeing the community that came with the new love interest with his wife, her husband, Yasmin, and the other main character whose the book comes out in May, and I cannot remember her name for the life of me. But for the first book, Yasmin, I saw that. No, I'm messing it up. Yasmin, I saw Kyla Pratt. And for the male love interest, I saw old dude off of, it's not 911. Is it 911? It's not 911. Chicago PD. I'm gonna put both of their like images on here. That is my fan cast for Before I Let Go, and it is magical. I feel like I have the best fan cast for Before I Let Go, and I'm just gonna put that out there. If you disagree, oh well, tough titty. This is my fan cast for Before I Let Go, and they're working on the movie. And Kenny Ryan got so much more in like coming, and she's helping with other independent authors getting their like adaptation deals. I just love it. I love that book. When I tell you my favorite book of 2024 is Before I Let Go, because one, just like putting it out there, I've read like Black YA fantasy / romantasy. That was my first adult Black romance book, and I feel like it was the best introduction into Black romance, and I just loved it. Also, Miss Ryan, if you see this video and you need somebody to play like an actress in Before I Let Go, and like to be like a waitress or a host at the restaurant, that Yasmin and her babe, hit me up. I stay in Atlanta anyways, and the restaurant is in Atlanta. So am I putting like my shot out there? Yes, I am. Will it get heard? I don't know, but I'm gonna air this as if it is gonna get heard, and you're gonna see me and be like, yes, she can be a waitress and have a one-liner and be like, Miss Yasmin, we have your usual table. You know, something. Throw something out there for me, please. But two, we're about to go to our next book that we read this year. But yes, Kenny Ryan, favorite author this year, favorite book, both of them books. Out of everything I read, those are my favorite books. So outside of reading regular like YA and romance and fantasy books, I got back into manga. And this is the main manga I read this year, / only manga I read this year. And that was, what is this? This is Beauty and the Feast. I thought it was so cute and quirky, but I had to put it down because it was getting borderline weird. Because basically the female lead in this manga, she is a young widow, and one thing that she missed doing is cooking for her husband. And this young student that lives next to her in her apartment complex goes to the near school, and he's an athlete, and he's there on scholarship, and he's eating really poorly, well, ramen over there is healthy, but he's eating a lot of like gas station food, and she wanted to cook him hearty meals so that he can be a great student, and that he can get all his nutrients to be the best athlete that he can be. And so she's always cooking for him every night, but there'll be nights like where he's still hungry, and she wakes up at like midnight or really, really late, and she cooks for him. And yeah, and you get to see, at the beginning it gave off nice neighbor, then it went to older sister, younger brother, then it got a little murky. And I had to lay them down for a minute, just for a minute. I haven't picked them back up. No. Is it DNF? No. It's just I haven't found the time to finish reading these mangas. So that was my 2024 wrap up. If you read any of these books, let's talk about it in the comments. If you plan to read any of these books and you do, let me know. And also tell me what books you read this year that you think I should probably put on my 2025 TBR. I also read Divine Rivals, but I didn't finish it because it started to scare me. Yeah. But that completes my 2024 wrap up. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. You guys try to make the thumbs up thing appear. It's not appearing. Does it not see me? There it go. But give it a thumbs up. Like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.